Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Politdigm podcast. My name is Red, and I'm joined by my co-host Alpha.
Hello, before we start, I think we will all benefit if I state clearly that today I'm craving death. So my mood will be a bit more sour than I am used to.
He will be slightly more homicidal.
Slightly is an understatement.
Yeah, that's
Those
what.
children didn't stand a chance.
What? Huh? What did you do? Anyways,
Good question.
yeah, that's what happens when you have a math test, and you have to study math, and you don't want to.
I hate math.
Math killed my wife and my two children, Timothy and Timothy. I'm very original with names. Anyways, today is the 24th of October. I almost forgot what month we were in. I was gonna say November. Holy shit. Um,
And I wish.
I wish I was. There's only like a couple of weeks till Christmas. And yesterday a blog came out. It was written by me, and it was one of those more like we have a lot of different types of articles that we write. We have ones that are like more of like a story, which is usually Alpha's sort of deal.
I love
Um, what?
I love depression. That's why I do those.
And then you have what usually I do, which is a bit more of like a what do you call it? Like a
Topic, generalization, something like that.
yeah. I mean, it's also kind of like I usually go for more of like a philosophy sort of blogs instead of like a
Which is ironic because I'm the philosophy one.
yeah. But I don't know. Anyways, we before we do get into the blog itself, we of course have to do our mandated little plug of our Patreon.
Yeah.
Make sure to support us if you want, of course.
Now, I want to give a very big disclaimer because we actually got our first Patreon supporter,
Exactly.
which shout out to the person who wished to stay anonymous, but you know who you are, and we greatly appreciate you. And also, we have a question for the end of the podcast,
Oh
which I
shit, we
have
do,
not, I have not told Red yet because I forgot.
bro. Okay, so this will be news for me. You'll have a real time reaction to this question.
Yeah.
Um. Anyways, of course, if you want, again, make sure to support us. Make sure to join our Discord if you want to be part of our community. And there, if you support us on Patreon, you get access to our podcast Q&A questions. And so, yeah, that's how you get how you get questions to
Bad
us.
news. We hit the grind.
We hit the what?
We grinding every day, waking up at 2 a.m., eating raw eggs to get them protein, boy.
Alpha is hitting them mental problemos momentos, those.
To the blog.
Anyways, to the vlog. I'm tired. We're both tired. This is what happens when you have to record.
I'm not tired. I'm depressed.
This is
This
this
is
is what
actually
this is what happens when you have to record podcast episodes after a long ass day.
yeah.
Anyways, so the topic that this week's topic has to do with centrism. Now, um, I want to do a bit of like a disclaimer or more of like like kind of give context on what I mean by that because it's very important to keep that in mind throughout the entire episode. Mostly because if you don't have what I'm going to say in mind, what I'm going to say can be taken out of context very easily, and it sounds really ass. Uh, but basically there's different types of centrism. That's one thing to keep in mind. The political spectrum is not literally like a line but more of like a square. But if you want to simplify it to left and right, centrism is basically everything that stays between left and right, which are the extremes. So basically everything can be considered centrism to a degree, which is why we then divide it into, for example, leftist centrists or right wing centrists, which are kind of in their own league, right? But we are purely talking about those who are right in the middle, those who don't want to either be considered a right wing or left wing, right? Those who are like the moderates, those who don't want to be seen with either parts, right? Those are the ones we're talking about. Another thing to keep in mind is that this episode is not an attack, right? We're not going to be here like fuck this, you're a dumbass. Like this is not our intention. We're not here to try to degrade you. If you are a centrist, which I'm guessing that most of our listeners aren't, anyways, but could happen in the future. Who knows? It's good to be ready for any occasion. But the blog and this episode is not an attack per se. It is more of a, this is what it means to be a centrist, and how, in our opinion, this is an opinion, not a really a fact, but in our opinion, from a leftist point of view, what that means. And there is going to be, well, some facts, which is basically just logic on how certain topics work. But
Fact and logic.
well, what
Facts and logic.
facts and logic? But no, I mean, yeah, they're, I don't know. Anyways, the first thing that we need to bring up is kind of the idea of staying in the middle. This idea of trying to not have an opinion, which is one way to view centrism. Uh, for example, in a previous episode, before we, well, 2 episodes ago, at the end of the episode, we kind of had a bit of a teaser what last episode's topic was, which was the issues in Palestine regarding Israel and all that stuff going on currently. And very openly, Alpha did not want to comment too much on that topic because he himself said that he didn't feel comfortable talking about it because he hadn't done enough research on it. If you want to have a centrist or more of an apolitical, or simply refrain from commenting on a topic because you don't feel like you are educated enough about it, or that you are aware that if you talk about it you might be pushing a wrong narrative, or you might be you might say something wrong, that is great. That is what you should always do. If you don't know about something, don't talk about it.
And often, a lot of people get themselves into
Sticky situations.
stupid situations because they do not have the awareness where their opinions start and where their actual knowledge of the facts ends. I
Yeah.
have seen a lot of arguments turn to shit because someone doubled down on something that they did not know. I was one of them. A lot of times I learned my lesson.
Like the losing weights because of G's. Anyways, that's a different. That's just me making fun of you. That's not really a
Also,
hard. That's,
I rechecked, and yeah, you still feel G's even if you're not accelerating, but that's something
I mean,
else.
yeah, but like it's not like being
Okay,
hit by a
keep going.
train. But yeah, I mean, yeah,
Keep
you,
going.
you are right. You are right. I'm not gonna say you're wrong. Anyways, so when you don't know about a certain topic, it is perfectly fine and acceptable. And in fact, it is what you should do is not talk about it. If you hear about a topic and somebody asks you about something and you don't know about it, it is mostly better to just stay quiet and publicly, say like, "Oh, I do not know about this topic. I do not feel comfortable talking about it. I would rather refrain from, speaking about this topic," rather than trying to, basically try to take into account stuff that you heard about that topic before, and then basically kind of what you say, like doubling down on this idea which might not even be yours, etc., etc. Because whilst there's nothing wrong inherently with like kind of being a kind of taking somebody else's opinion and then push and then like saying that being your
Putting
opinion,
it to your own.
it is always best to kind of there's nothing wrong with, for example, I hear about a topic, somebody explains it to me and shows this is my opinion. And there's nothing wrong with me listening to that opinion and then doing, self reflection, doing my own research and then having the same opinion. That's fine. Um, Mostly because if it's somebody that has a similar, usually similar opinions to you, then that's usually normal that you would have possibly a similar opinion about a certain topic. However, you need to take into account that if you don't know if their opinion is correct and what you said they're correct, you might be, pushing more misinformation about a certain topic, which might be creating a whole issue, a whole new problem. This can either be about a certain attack, like a terrorism attack, or a hurtful stereotype about a certain group, a minority group, stuff like that. If you aren't actually aware of the facts and you only just basically go along with some idea that was shown to you that is not, can or cannot be based on facts you don't know. Can you can be indirectly, kind of adding on onto the issue.
That's called propaganda.
Yeah. So there's that. That's one thing. Then there's also kind of the trying to stay apolitical. Whilst there's kind of staying apolitical is kind of like can have different like forms of it, or can have different like intensities of it. One which is kind of what we just explained, but like just generally, like being like, I am a dumbass. I know nothing about politics. I know nothing about all of this shit. So I just don't want to talk about it. That is also fine. However, later dates, if you start voting and stuff, that is, kind of like you're at a point where you probably should like start educating yourself on certain things, because as a voter, you should at least know the minimum, to be able to vote and contribute to society in some way, uh, rather than just being this creature of the night. Um,
What the fuck?
I don't know. I was thinking of like somebody that just like stays at home, like does nothing. It's just like a little gremlin. Like,
Oh, an incel.
yeah, pretty much. And so but again, there's nothing wrong with that. You're not hurting anybody as long as you kind of just assume of like, yeah, I'm just not gonna talk about this, or I'm gonna talk about anything. If anybody ever brings politics, I'm just gonna run away. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. That's also something. However, there's also the other version of it, the other version of being apolitical, which is to us a form of being a centrist, right? Which is this idea of, I'm not going to take a side, and I'm rather going to try to accept everybody from all sides, right? So,
Which doesn't work.
which doesn't work. And that's when you get into being a centrist, trying to stay right in the middle, trying to not go, try not to be being on the fence, which is actually something that Alpha talked about with me yesterday. This idea of being on the fence and not trying to fall.
Consider is literally an expression
Yeah.
describe to describe someone that doesn't take a side.
So trying to not take a side, but you neither try to fall to one side or the other. You just stay there, sitting on a piece of wood, uncomfortably,
Like the
while
little
being
bitch
uncomfortable.
that you are.
What?
Huh?
Oh. Anyways, um, that is having that sort of opinion, or trying to be as much as a moderate, or trying to be as much in the center as possible, doesn't work. And it's not because it's like, we're just trying to tell you like it just doesn't work, you can't do it, screw you. It's because it's more of like there's inherent contradictions with trying to be in the center. Trying to be in the center would mean that you neither support anything but also support everything, right? There's a lot of just kind of things that just kind of collide with each other. That means that this idea of being in the center won't work. And at the end of the day, you are technically still taking a side. And this has to do with, for example, oppression. This is a good example. An example that we give in the blog has to do with the topic of last week, which is, for example, we give the example of somebody who tries to take both sides. In this case, somebody that looks at Israel and says there's a lot of good people in Israel and there's a lot of bad people in Israel, and then they look at Palestine and they're like, there's a lot of good people in Palestine and there's a lot of bad people in Palestine. So I neither support Palestine, neither support Israel. And if you don't, again, if you aren't educated enough on the topic, and you kind of take this this, if this is the opinion you have, or if this is the side you take, or kind of what you say that you are going to do, which is neither take one side or the other because you don't know enough information, so you'd rather not comment, that's fine. However, if you know enough information about it and you openly state that you are neither pro Israel nor pro Palestine, that is not something you can do. Because if in that case you aren't, if you don't support Israel, then you kind of have to support Palestine. Because if you don't support Israel and you don't support Palestine, that kind of means that you are willingly ignoring what Israel has been doing to Palestine. And then that's where it
Well,
comes to.
maybe let's give another example that is a little less complicated. Like if you have someone that commits like a murder,
Yeah,
and then you have the victim of the
yeah,
murder, and you
that's
say,
a way better, simpler example.
"Ooh, I don't wanna take sides on this. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know about that person's past and what they did and stuff. Come on, that is being at the center. That is not taking a side, but." By doing that, you are clearly siding with the oppressor because you're letting their oppression go unpunished, which is what
exactly.
is happening with people that side with Palestine.
Or don't side with Palestine neither.
Yeah, don't side with Palestine. Jesus Christ, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
so people who that's the issue. Like that's the main focus of this blog article is that there's nothing inherently wrong with trying to be in the center. Like there's no like right, yeah, who is in the center, you must die. But in a lot of cases, in a lot of situations, which happens almost in every facet of life, there's going to be an oppressor and a victim. Either that being in a very extreme case where it's very obvious who is who, or in scenarios where who is slightly less noticeable. When like can be might have to do with like an issue in your home, in your family, or something, right? There's more. Sometimes it is unnoticeable, but that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about a more specific, like political, economical issues. For example, like I said, in a situation of war where there's a clear oppressor, in the case of this case being Israel, and there's clearly a victim being Palestine. When you don't take a side, you're like Alpha said, you're kind of just ignoring, right? You're kind of ignoring the oppression going on. You're kind of like, there's both good people on both sides, there's bad people on both sides, but I'm just going to ignore it and just going to move on with my life. You're willingly and openly just ignoring the fact that there's an oppressor and that there's an entire like apartheid going on, right? Which means that by then what you're doing is you are then mostly siding with a right-wing idea, right? You're siding with a colonial power indirectly, and therefore you are not being in the center anymore. And that's what we mean with like it's kind of impossible to be in the center. Another example is, for example, the idea of supporting Black Lives Matter, and then also stating that, for example, you don't support the defunding of the police who do, who do hate crimes and stuff like that, and you openly also support the police system, which are two very well things that just don't really coexist because you can't support a movement that has to do with, for example, ending police brutality and then supporting the exact group who does said police brutality, right? Like that's another example of like you can't really side with both sides because then you saying that you side with Black Lives Matter doesn't really mean anything because you also support police and therefore are inherently also supporting police brutality, right?
There is
And
a paradox that describes that. It's the paradox of intolerance. I don't remember who came up with it, if I'm going to be honest. But it's basically the idea of if you don't tolerate intolerance, you yourself become intolerant. But if you tolerate everything, you also tolerate intolerance. The idea is that you need to find a middle ground where and which topics you decide to become intolerant are what define your limits when it comes to your morals and your way of life. So you can tolerate certain actions, but you can't just look at everything and say, "Mm, yeah, I don't want to be intolerant, so I'm gonna let it slide." If someone commits a crime, uh, like a violent crime for absolutely no reason, you can't. As a society, you can't just be like, I don't want to be intolerant. I'm gonna let it slide. There have to be limitations, but they also have to apply to both sides.
yeah, and so that's the thing with that's one of the issues. Well, mostly an example of one of the issues that centrism has. Another one, which is goes more into the economic side, has to do, for example, with the issues that comes with capitalism, which again, like like we said before, there's an oppressor and a victim. The oppressor is, large companies, CEOs, shareholders, etc., etc., and the victims is the proletariat, the workers. And so now you come to an issue, which is that whilst liberals are not per se centrist, because there's definitely right wing liberals, a lot of centrists end up being liberals. And you might be asking why. Well, not saying that every centrist considers themselves a liberal, which is another thing. You might not consider yourself a liberal, but you also have to look at the facts, or like what do you believe in, and then compare them to the ideologies that exist, and kind of realize that, oh shit, um,
Maybe I am a liberal.
maybe I am a lib. Which is liberalism in its theory, in its in its inception, was the idea of championing individualism, right? We want individuals to be powerful, to be rich, to be successful, which, for example, Marxism or leftist ideologies also have no issue with people having with individuals having success. There's nothing wrong with a person having success, right? But it's more of the how. That's where the problem lies, right? Is how you
Yeah,
tend
being
to.
a socialist doesn't mean you're poor. I hate that. I hate when people say, "Oh, you're a socialist." Does that mean you like being poor?
Yeah, like if you're a leftist, that
That's
doesn't
not how
mean
it
like, yeah,
works.
it's like, oh, you're a leftist, then like live on the street. Be that one. Was that one fucking like, is he was he
Be homeless.
who?
Get poor.
No, it was that the one. It might be. Don't kill me, Alpha. Is that like a Greek philosopher who like lived on the streets and shit?
Yes, I don't remember his name.
Diogenes? No.
Yeah, Diogenes. He was
Yeah.
famous for going to Plato, who described the human as a featherless biped.
Yeah.
And he went to Plato with a chicken without feathers and said, "Look at this human I got.
He was a bit. He was.
Oh, isn't he so human?
I feel like he would be the alpha of the group of friends. I don't know why.
I aspire to be him." Like
I aspire to be an annoying piece of shit. No, I'm joking.
when
But
like
to be
Alexander
remembered
the
thousands of
Great
years later.
met him, he was living on the street in a barrel. He came up to him and said, "I can give you anything you want. What do you want?" And he just said, "Yo, bro, can you move aside? You're blocking my shade."
Bro. But yeah, like,
That is the most alpha shit, not like me shit, but like, oh my god.
but yeah, like
I have a
being a
question for you.
being a leftist is not being Diogenes. Like, we're not gonna be living on the streets. However, back to what I was saying, liberalism has that idea, right? Supporting and the idea of individual success. But then there's also the idea of supporting and focusing on on labor, right? On focusing on the enrichment of corporations. Because there's an idea in the liberal world of something known as trickle down economics, something that I hate with a passion, because
Yeah,
it has
doesn't
never
work.
existed. And trickle down economics would only work in a heavily regulated system like socialism. But
I digress.
because the idea of trickle down economics is kind of thinking of like those, like those. I guess it's called a champagne fountain, where there's like a champagne like a glass at the top, and like you fill that one up, and like it slowly fills the ones at the lower levels.
I know what trickle down economics are. Don't
I
worry.
I know, I'm explaining it to the viewers, Alpha.
Ah, okay, sorry.
For those who don't know, I mean, most people probably know, but that's kind of the idea, right? Is the top glass is the boss, is the shareholders in most larger companies, right? It's the ones who first get the money and get the most amount of money, and then the idea is that slowly it will trickle down into the lower classes of a company or a society. The issue is that in a system where there's no regulations or rules, or like a system in place that says that that must happen, that has to happen, it
You
won't
have
happen. Because when the idea of like the liberal concept of trickle down economics is fully based off of goodwill of the ones at the top, right? Is the goodwill of the people, right? Like the boss is like, it's like if my boss today feels like it, he'll pay me fairly. And if there is no rule that
think
says
he
my
explained
boss
to
has to
the
has to give me a fair wage, then why will he? Then why would he do that?
I'm just imagining like a capitalist guy saying, "Feeling quirky, might start a union today."
Yeah, if I'm feeling quirky today, I might pay my workers a fair wage today. just
I might
maybe.
allow them to see their children.
If lunch is ready by 1 p.m., I might just be a nice person. But if it's only done by like 1:10, like 10 past 1, I might not do that anymore. Yeah, I might not feel like it. So that's the issue that we, I mean, in a very general terms, that's the issue that liberalism has, or that we have with liberalism, which is, for example, the topic that we talked about 2 weeks ago. So if you want to get more into specific that, watch the episode or read the article. But in essence, right, in essence, the idea of being a liberal is the idea of we support the individual, we want the individual to thrive, and we also want the corporation to thrive so that it can inherently make the individual thrive. In pure just like theory, right? That is not that bad of an idea, right? In an ideal world where there are people weren't
Yeah.
jackasses, right? There's that seems like a perfectly fine idea, right? The idea that if companies are rich, then their workers can be rich. Cool. That's socialism, right? In a way, in a very broad and shitty terms. And so of course, centrists, when they look at the left, when they see a highly like a group of people who highly believe in the workers, having more power and being able to own kind of what
And treated
they.
as human beings, which is a foreign concept to a lot of people.
And so when you have, I'm forgetting the exact term, but like when the workers owning the means of no the fuck
Means of production.
means of production, exactly. So that there's the left, and then you have the right, which is this idea of like corporations must be filthy rich, and just fuck everybody else. When you look at those both sides, a centrist is going to try to create a world where both can thrive, right? Where both workers and both the companies can thrive. And liberalism is kind of that idea. That's how liberalism was born. Is this idea of like companies were filthy rich and workers kind of wanted a more a system where they could thrive more. So liberalism was born, right? And so centrists end up kind of being liberals, right? However, then we come back to the issues with liberalism, which is that liberalism is a form of capitalism, and capitalism is a very oppressive and predatory system, which
And vile.
which completely does not give a flying fuck
Rat's ass.
about the people, about the workers, about the proletariat, and rather just wants to make the richer rich, the rich richer. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
So when you take into account that, again, a centrist most likely will supports a system like this because they kind of have this naive idea that trickle down economics will actually come into effect. You once again are rather you're supporting a system that rather supports the oppressor, right? You are again letting the oppressor kind of just I'm just going to ignore that because it kind of I don't want to think about it, and then once again the exact same thing with a murder or a war. It's almost the exact same concept of there being an oppressor, there being a victim, and you want to take both sides, so inherently you're letting the oppressor win. And therefore, because of that, if you're letting the oppressor win, which in this case you're letting a system exist that benefits the corporations, you are again having a right wing. You're basically a
a
right
corporal
wing.
rat.
Yeah. So yeah, corporal rat. So
I
like
love how sincerely you immediately agreed with what I just said.
so again, we come back to the drawing board and you kind of start looking at that. It seems like there's this inherent kind of tendency that when you are a centrist, you're actually always kind of leaning to the right. And it shows that being a centrist is not perfect and not something that actually works because the way that being a centrist works is that and because of how society is built, you are always kind of starting to lean to the right and you're always being pushed to the right. and it always is like this. It's kind of there's this sort of weird. Maybe Alpha, you know more about this, but there seems to always be this sort of like weird tendency where throughout time it seems that without like proper education, without all these different things, seems that we always start to shift to the right, right?
Yeah,
And what
intolerance
was
and lack of knowledge always comes with a. There is a reason as to why dictatorships prefer their population to be stupider, to put
yeah,
it bluntly.
that's why it's always dumb. Like for example, in Portugal, we have theoretically we have a centrist political group in power currently.
Like center left
Yeah,
currently.
they're more towards the center. At least in like a political compass, they're almost right in the middle to a little more towards libertarian left, but they're a little close.
Yeah, our
And
libertarians, like our liberals, are something else. They're just like far right.
yeah, our liberals are scary. But so in Portugal, it's a good example because another example of another kind of issue with being a centrist is that nobody likes you.
Yeah,
Nobody likes you, neither wants you. Because
yeah,
if you're a leftist, in our case, you see centrist as kind of like right wing
apologetics.
apologetics. Because you are kind of apologizing for the oppression and the issues caused by right wing ideologies. We're not saying you're doing it on purpose because, to be fair, most of the times you aren't. That's kind of another thing I'm
Yeah,
going to talk about later.
by trying to be inclusive and like safe, you just say, I don't know, and then you end up doing
Yeah, you're
way
doing the
worse.
bad thing. And then for a right wing fascist warmonger, you are seen as a communist rat, right? So because anything that's slightly more to the left is a communist to right wing crazy people.
I
Um,
have seen right-wing people claiming that the Nazis were communists because they had red on their swastikas.
I mean, Americans consider Democrats left wing, like communists, when Democrats by themselves they're also a right wing group. So like, what the fuck are you
I mean,
talking about?
Democrats were pro-slavery at the beginning,
Yeah,
so
like Democrats, like they are also they like you have like right wing are basically like fascists, and then you have Democrats which are liberals, which are all on the right wing spectrum. Ones are just authoritarian, and the other ones are more libertarian. That's kind of the only difference between the two. Is that ones
there was
are more authoritarians, and the other ones are a little nicer, a little bit, just a little
a
bit.
review of a motorcycle where the person that was giving the review, they're always fucking great. That channel is absolutely amazing. Said that just like American politics, neither the right or the left are desirable.
So that's one complication with being a centrist, is that neither the left nor the right like you. And Portugal is a very good example of that because our current political like situation is one of the most weird things that I've ever seen because everybody hates our current prime minister. Every no matter if you're from the right, if you're from the left, we have never in that sense we have never been more unified as a fucking country because everybody fucking hates our prime minister.
And also, our president is just kind of
But our president is like Joe Biden 2.0, and he
yeah.
clearly probably has dementia. The man is not okay. Somebody needs to give him his meds and check up on him
He
because
actually is. He doesn't sleep.
like
That the only that's the only way I can identify with him is the fact that he doesn't sleep.
because he
He
looks
wakes
so
people up like
confused.
4
He
a.m.
like he looks like that meme of like, all right, grandpa, time to take the meds. Like he looks confused all the time. And I
Yeah.
swear to God, he just go into retirement, man. Just give up. Like go like you clearly have enough money to just get a nice retirement, like and just
Actually, no. We are so good as a country that the prime minister doesn't even make that much money.
no,
Nor
I'm talking
do
about the
the
president. I'm talking about the president.
presidents. Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is a bit yeah, whatever. But anyways, but like if you don't know anything about politics or you at least know how Joe Biden is, just imagine him, but like speaking Portuguese. Basically, that's our president. So
And a little less like dementia ridden.
it's maybe just dementia
He's old.
ridden,
He's
indifferent.
old school.
It's
He's
like
really old school. But
he's
besides
like
that,
it's like they're
he's still sharp.
they're just like yeah, he's a little bit sharper, but it's like it's like where one has more imperfections, the other one doesn't. But then like he's more, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of on par. Just one is slightly
I
more
think they
dementia
just
ridden
want to
in certain
legalize euthanasia,
aspects of
though.
life. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that's weird. Yeah,
centrism has this issue where neither in a smaller scale people won't like you, in a larger scale you kind of have this you kind of have always this mentality of like we need to benefit the people as much as possible, but then you're also constantly on your knees toward corporations and sucking their corporate
Politdic.
so it's like you kind of
Sorry
have
for
this
the graphic visuals.
yeah, so yeah, sorry for the graphic visuals, but like kind of have like this wishy-washy mentality of like we're kind of going to try to make every side happy, and at the end of the day all you get is people complaining that you don't do shit, um which is fair enough.
Yeah,
uh and so that's an issue. um and so yeah, again, being a centrist is a very complicated aspect, and whilst we have no inherent issue with if you're a centrist, in fact we welcome centrists onto our channel, because that's another thing I want to get into, is that being a centrist is also a good situation to be in if you are just getting into politics,
yeah.
because
If
it
you
is
haven't found your footing yet,
because it's where you're the most like your mind is the most open towards anything, right? You are most susceptible
susceptible.
can you say it?
Susceptible. Now you gave me brain rot. Susceptible.
Susceptible to propaganda, either being from the left or the right. And
Yeah,
so that's another thing which is good about centrists, is that their whole idea of being as tolerable and as open to every side as possible means that they're very open-minded toward new ideas, which is an issue that, for example, right-wing ideologies simply do not have. Like they do not give a fuck about anything that's slightly different from their conservative views,
couldn't
and
give a
the
rat's ass.
and leftists can sometimes kind of suffer from the same concept. The issue is that leftists usually are progressives, therefore their
They
ideas
are
or
objectively better.
no, it's not that objectively better. Is that like when you're progressive, you're always trying to progress. Therefore, you kind of refuse to listen to conservative ideas. That's a different concept. One thing is refusing to listen to conservative ideas and always being progressive and always making sure that you are as open and always making sure that you are educated on the newest new thing in society, etc. And another thing is just being like, I refuse to learn new things, and I want to live on
They must
a.
return to
I
ignorance.
must return to caveman unga bunga.
I didn't want to go that far, but you said it.
We're all thinking it, and so that's those are two different sides. Right? There's one is kind of refusing to listening to one thing is refusing to listen to conservative ideas which are just based off of old bullshit concepts, which most of them were based off of immoral ideas, and a lot of them are based off of immoral and highly insane religious ideologies, which are only created to oppress
Label.
women or minorities or and to control people. So as a leftist, like, why would I listen to the crazy person talking about religion and how God is going to smite us down and send us to hell? Um,
Yeah.
and so when you're a centrist, when you kind of have this idea of wanting to listen to both sides and being open to dialogue from both sides, you're in a situation where you can be easily pulled to either sides, unless you are very very dedicated to staying in the middle. At that point, you're just kind of annoying, but uh,
Yep.
it's a different issue,
That is something else.
because I definitely close to me know somebody who is very adamant to being like he is like he which is different because like he says that he's a leftist, but then it's like, well then, like anytime another
You're a
leftist is
leftist?
like the person I'm talking
Name
about is
again.
like they're a leftist, but they're like kind of like also a centrist in a way. They're like they're a leftist, but then anytime any other leftist mentions anything bad that the right does, they're like, yeah, but hold on, maybe the guy the person on the right has some ideas. And it's like, bro, what the fuck do you mean? Like,
Yeah, I had a guy that is that him. I don't know how it is in America, but here in Portugal, we got something called it's the youth basically of the party. Giving to the fact that we don't have like a Democrat or Republican Party, we have a lot
yeah,
of
we don't
different
have a
parties.
duopoly. We don't have
Yeah,
a political duopoly. We actually have different parties, which is
we have a political
crazy.
monopoly. Uh,
So
I'm
yeah,
a stupid one. We God damn it. Uh, I forgot what I was going to say.
Talking about, I don't know, we're talking about personal
Yeah, I
example.
had a guy that is part of the youth group of the party that's currently in power, and we were talking about a dictator that ruled Portugal with an iron fist and its colonies during a lot of a very long time,
Yeah.
called Salazar. And he said, "Yeah, but unlike other dictators, he wasn't racist." And I was just like, "Bitch, what the fuck?
What does there's so
What do you
many.
mean?"
Number one, who gives a fuck?
No, he
Like he's
absolutely was.
no, but it's like no, it's not like when I say who gives a fuck, it's like, and what if he wasn't? He was still a fucking dictator. That's
Yeah,
it's like, oh,
and
but like he
why?
was a insane dictator, but at least he didn't hate black people. It's like, okay, and he still like, but then it's also the fact that yeah, just like I said, he did hate them. So like the hell.
He had colonies,
Yeah, like
which he
we were a
colonized.
colonial power, so how the fuck?
He killed a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, that's dumb.
That's fucked up.
Yeah,
I remember
but
seeing that. And I was like, "Bitch, what the fuck?"
yeah, that's dumb. I've heard a lot of similar arguments. Also, like the argument of like, oh yeah, Portugal would be best if we had another dictatorship like that, but just not as authoritarian. It's like, how the fuck do you have a dictatorship that isn't authoritarian and all these are there are a lot of contradictions that are
The
impossible.
brain
Like,
damage.
anyways, back to the topic at hand. Um,
We love
we
our tangents.
welcome centrists onto our platform and onto a community
Basically,
because whilst again there is like definitely like for example if you're like an anarchist leftist you're very like you are very extreme and in some cases you might not be conservative but try to highly conserve your ideas and completely just when anybody that's slightly more right wing you're like kill yourself, I want you to die, and I if you come any closer I'm going to snap your neck. You're like, whoa, all right, that's also not necessary. But like I definitely like and I think most people do like me and Alpha like we coexist with crazy right wing people every day. So it's not like we're not out here like snapping necks at
the amount of
every
time I hear the N word at our school is worrying, to say the fucking least.
yeah. So we're not out here like snapping necks every like 5 seconds. And
You speak
so
for yourself.
I mean you definitely want to. So there's definitely like we are. I mean we're very open towards hearing. There's a difference between like open to hearing bullshit and actually like registering it. I mean, like you might be listening to somebody, but it might also just like it's basically just white noise in the background. You're just there like, what the fuck? Which happens a
This
lot.
piece of shit.
Happened to me
I
today. Like a guy was like, I support the LGBT community. I just don't like the way that they exist. And I was like,
huh?
what the fuck does that mean? What do you
I
mean? Like
support. Fuck their
it's
existence.
like I support them. I just don't like the way that they kind of no,
Are
it wasn't that how they exist. It's like how they display their existence. I don't know how to say it, but like the idea that I
uh,
kind of got from it was like I don't like the way they fight for their rights, sort of vibe. Like I don't like I support the LGBT community. I just don't like when they're flashy and they annoy me. Basically, that sort of mentality, which is like, all right, die, just die, like go die, go die in a corner. Like I don't care. And so but I still hear that shit, and I always try to educate those people and try to be like, "That's cool and all, but what you just said is insane
for sure.
and is not based off of any logical sense, and it's just based off a bunch of rhetoric you heard and just some
And a
reactionary
lot of the
bullcrap."
time, it's Reddit. So
Uh
much Reddit.
nah, those people
Or
aren't
even
even smart enough to read Reddit, man. You know that's yourself. Like those people are
yeah,
not
they
smart
got
enough
that big consumer brain. You're
like
right.
they'll just like they're like that quintessential example of like that kid who like sits at the table and their dad is like spewing the most racist and vile shit, and then when they come to school they're just like
Yeah,
passing on that information onto their classmates. Like that's what
yeah.
they are.
One
um
time I was at our school cafeteria, and we had the option to get a sausage. I refused the sausage.
okay.
A girl turned to me and said, "You communist prick," and I was like, "What the fuck?
Wait, what? What does
What
that
do
have
you
to do with anything? You heard it
mean?"
here, folks. Refusing sausages makes you a communist prick.
I still remember that girl.
I would be traumatized if that happened. It's like you're kind of right, but what the fuck does that have to do with my sausage?
Like I had one thing happened with me. I was really young, like 8 years old. I could read, not very well, but I could read. And I had a we got a comic book, which was a whole collection of the comics of Mafalda.
All right,
You know who that is?
I do, I do. I mean, does that
Yeah,
exist in other countries? That is like a Portugal thing.
I'm pretty sure she's not Portuguese.
Huh.
Um, if you don't know, it's basically a middle class girl that is one of the best philosophers I've ever seen. To the point where a lot of her like
Comic book strips, yeah.
comic book stripes, are on our philosophy books. So, uh, I was looking at that, and it said, okay, so my father was walking down the street, and then she saw her friend, who said, "Oh, we don't have classes today," and she asked, "Why?" "Because there are no more classes." And she said, "Social?" He replied, "No, like at school." And she sighed and relieved, saying, "God damn, I thought we were going towards communism."
Damn it.
Um, yeah, damn it. So I turned to my granny and was like, "Yo, granny, what is communism?" She says, "Okay, it's basically this idea that everyone is in the same
Sit down, boy. Time for lecture.
environment." Actually dumbed it down to me really, really well. So now I'm little alpha going to school, and I receive a sheet of paper after learning about communism being about there being no rich and no poor and everyone being at the same level. And it's like it's close to Christmas. It's this thing where write down what you want for at the end of the year as a present from Santa. And I was like, world peace,
Just imagine.
equality,
I got,
communism.
it's like eight
it
8 year old little like alpha who is like a communist Santa. Uh,
was like a cartoon children holding papyruses, and you wrote down on the papyrus what you wanted.
yeah.
And I just wrote communism. And
I
my teacher, I saw her eyes bulge when when she read that, and she called my grandmother.
that would have been that would be so funny if that happened in the U.S. That would have been like that would have been a huge scandal because like here in Portugal it's whatever because we do have a strong communist party, but that would have been
Yeah,
so that would be so funny in like in a country like the U.S. where like because of Red Scare propaganda like communism is like this it's like
I would
this
most
scary
likely
thing
have a
that if you
riot.
even say the name it'll fucking kill your whole family in like the next 10 minutes.
The FBI would knock down my door.
So it's like it's just so funny. I just imagine like a 7-year-old alpha just being like, "For Christmas, I want communism." It's like, whoa,
My
whoa.
granny laughed her ass off. So did my grandpa. My sister was
Marx would be
confused,
proud of you, fellow comrade.
and now I have the whole capital, the capital on my shelf, ready to be read.
At
And I've
any
already
moment,
read the Communist Manifesto.
at any moment, to be either used as a academic weapon or as a literal weapon,
Little weapon.
because it's a heavy fucking book. I
Now I
can
have it broken down into like
bash people in with.
12 different books.
Damn, whoa, what the fuck? You have like a whole communist collection.
Oh hell yeah! And then I have the whole section of politics written by other people, and then I have philosophy, like philosophical politics
Yeah. I think a lot of
or
people
politics,
forget that like Marx was a philosopher, not like a politician or anything.
which is why he was goaded with the fucking sauce.
Yeah, all politicians are evil.
Because yeah,
That's not true, but
I love political philosophy. It's probably my favorite part of philosophy. That and
yeah.
religious.
Ooh,
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's true. Philosophy is goaded.
yeah.
Philosophy is like I mean, that's
Me
why I
the homies
enjoy
thinking about thinking.
that's why I enjoy writing like I get like your approach of like loving to write blogs that are like more focused on like hey, here's like this like historical like complex issue or concept and here's like how this was born. These are like different dates. That's like I personally can't be asked like I'm way too lazy and like I do
The
not have
amount
them
of research I
like
have to do,
like I
like
do
my notebook is filled to the brim.
yeah, like I definitely kind of my blogs are way easier to write than Alpha's. But that's why he's the crazy one. Because he has lost his mind. And I'm trying to preserve the
I was
last
just
sense of
crazy
humanity
when
that I
you were-
still have.
I was filled in a room.
And so like I love writing these type of articles. I love writing these articles which are more like, I mean, they're not like based off purely like, they're just not pure
They're
philosophy,
just
right?
based.
Because like I'm definitely basing myself on the knowledge I know of like economics, of politics, of like societal, like more like societal issues, which do kind of start getting into philosophy and stuff like that. But I love writing these articles which are more of like, what did you call it the other day, like opinion articles or opinion pieces,
Yeah, opinion
which,
articles.
because like, yeah, of course that's why we always try to preface and like try to focus so much on like trying to say like we are not journalists, like we are not unbiased
We are
journalists, like
two
if you
teenagers
consume our content, we are biased, like we are openly biased, because like what the
and dumb. We are dumb.
because like that's the whole concept of Politdigm, is that we're a left, like a very left leaning organization which tries to, basically we're basically doing leftist
Yeah,
propaganda.
built
um
by normal people. Two normal people.
yeah, or whoever that listens. It's basically democracy, but
Yeah, there is that one like small video of a Middle Eastern
did you
person.
know
I don't
that
know.
that guy is a cult leader?
Yeah, I can see that. He just says like democracy is basically for the people,
By the
by the
people,
people, to
but
the
people are
people.
fucking stupid.
But people are the R word.
Yeah, people are fucking mentally deficient.
Which I think is one of the most right-wing shit I've ever heard. which is
And
which
it's
is
painfully
so
true,
funny.
which is sad. But yeah, like I I love
Your
writing
government
these.
would work if you weren't fucking idiotic. Bottom text.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, I love writing these type of articles, which are much more of like a, I don't know, kind of me trying to put out there my ideas. So like I one
You know
of
what?
my, what
For a special mark,
would you say?
we should do an open debate on something.
I mean, it's kind of hard for us to. I mean, we can do a podcast that is like more of like a debate where you kind of just like do a more of like an
Let's get a
improvisation.
extremely controversial topic, a week for us to research separately, and then just fucking debate the shit out of it. Like 1 year anniversary or something like that.
We could do that. The problem is like, how do we tie that in with the blog?
We have 2 episodes that week.
True, we could do that. I mean, yeah, if we definitely, if we when we launched Politdigm on the 1st of July, so if we do it during the summer, then yeah, we have more free time. So that is true. Yeah, we could do that. That'd be fun. I mean, me and like obviously nobody's gonna know this, but like me and Alpha, when like we are at school, like we regularly like just go up to each other and just like, hey, did you just hear about this news, and just start just debating about it. The thing is, like the nice thing about me and Alpha doing debates is because like I like what we agree on like 99% of things. So it's like it's not really like a debate
Yeah,
of like in like the more like the that
you're a
in
bit
like in
more
the way that
anarchist
you're used to a
than me, and
debate
I'm
where it's
just
just
fucking
like two people
insane.
screaming at each other. It's more of like just two buddies sharing philosophical concepts to each other and sharing their views and their and how they. I mean, mostly we have kind of the same conclusion. It's just kind of sharing how we got to that conclusion,
Yeah.
which is fun.
Once again, you're a bit more anarchist than me, and I'm a lot more insane.
I'm not a more anarchist. The fuck are you talking about? You're the one who's
A
like
bit, a bit,
always.
a bit.
You're the one who's constantly like you're a nah. Here's the thing. You're more a revolutionary than I am,
Yeah, I'm more revolutionary than you are.
and I'm a
Yeah,
fucking pacifist in like almost
sure,
every sense.
sure.
Not only when it's with bugs.
Except in
I
real
can't stand
life.
bugs. I can't stand
The years
bugs.
of abuse are screaming down at you.
I I mean, yeah, I mean,
It's
I
hitting
needed to
you
get it out of my
deeper.
system somehow. You know what I mean? Like I got it out of my system, and then I became a pacifist.
Yeah, puberty is fucked up.
No, this that sounds so bad. It sounds like I spent like years abusing you. But no, it's more of like that like brotherly relationship where like you're
Yeah,
constantly
we're just
just.
the older one just beats the shit out of the younger
Yeah, I was
one.
kind of like the older like sibling where I was just constantly just like quote unquote bullying Alpha for like no apparent reason, but like secretly I guess we just enjoyed spending time with each other, and that was kind of like a way to do it anyways.
I
Uh,
sure as shit didn't enjoy your punches, but yeah, I could let it slide.
but I mean, pain only makes us stronger. You know, it bonded us together for life, and I will always remember those
And now I
squeals
have and now I have masochistic tendencies, so thanks a
and
lot.
PTSD now. And now and
I
you're
hear I'm robot friend and I go down into a spiral. That's a deep one. Holy shit.
and you have masochist tendencies, and I have sadist tendencies. So you know who? No, joking. But
Sure. But yeah.
it is, yeah,
Well,
that's definitely a good idea. I would love to actually do that, like a more of like an. I mean, all our episodes are very based off improvisation. Like we write basically. I mean, Alpha is the only one who usually comes prepared to fucking recording a podcast. I usually just I write the article and then I just come on here. I'm like trying to remember what the fuck I wrote,
waste time, bitch.
and that's why I usually I'm like so like I'll have a moment where I'm like because I'm trying to remember like all the different like topics that I talked about, and I just sometimes like my brain cannot handle it.
That is
Uh,
why this is not a solo act.
yeah, I mean,
We do not
yeah.
have the charisma.
That's why, like, this is why it's great. That this is like a that we are a fucking duo, because this by myself would be like it'd be the biggest brain rot thing, and I would have given up way earlier. Like this is the 17th episode, I believe. It's
Holy shit.
crazy. It's been 17 episodes
It's
already.
been
Like
7 weeks.
yeah, it's been 17 weeks. That's
17 weeks.
it's a lot of fucking time.
My god.
So it's been a long time, and it's funny because like I like for those who I mean for those who know me through only Politdigm, uh,
Sorry.
what?
I thought you were going to say OnlyFans, and I was.
What the
I don't know.
fuck, Alpha?
I spent way too much time online, okay? Not
Yeah,
in that sense. In the sense where I see way too much like
memes.
compilations of people being stupid and a lot of people
Yeah,
being stupid about going against sex workers, which is fucking stupid, and we should talk about that.
we should
And,
do.
like,
Yeah, we should. Surprisingly, we have never ever talked like between us mentioned the idea of writing a blog about sex work.
I don't know if I would do a blog on sex workers, but I would definitely like a discussion about sex workers.
I could do that. I could do that. I'll write that down. I'll write that down.
Yeah, sure.
But it's fuck. What was I gonna say? Shit. Oh no, yeah. For those
As
who
the
don't
name
only
implies, they are workers. They are people.
exactly, they're
Let's
not
let's
bags
shelf
of
that for
meat.
another day.
But yeah, for those who only know me through Politime, might be a surprise to you, but like this is not my only endeavor. If you go into, for example, the Politime website, and you'll kind of start looking around, you'll see other names of other companies, other brands, and you'll start understanding my whole portfolio. But I've throughout the last years been dedicated to many other projects outside politics. Based on my other passions like creative writing, uh, purely just gaming,
Yeah, I get
or
those Discord messages at 2 a.m.
or for example, having to do with clothing and fashion and design, all that stuff. Because I'm very nerdy when it comes to design and arts and all that crap.
I also have to
Um,
do videos at 2 a.m.
True, and they're usually a little worse than mine. Uh, but a little worse. I didn't say mine were good. Um, but I feel like Polytime has definitely been the project that I've been able to stay most consistent with and like not let myself down at any point. Because like that's the thing is like doing. That's why I hate and I'll always hate the concept of liberalism, because this idea that if you work hard enough, and what
I'm
I
sorry,
was able
I
to
was not expecting that.
I was able to tie it back into liberalism. All right,
Holy
I'm
shit!
fucking
What a
liberals.
segue! What a segue!
If there's something, if there's one thing I can fucking agree with, and that I relate to conservative Americans, that I hate liberals. But that's a joke. I mean, not really, but I don't hate them for the same
In
reasons.
Minecraft, we hate him in Minecraft.
I hate them for almost all the opposite reasons. But
Yeah,
anyways, like the whole concept of like if you work hard enough, if you like the self-made man, or like the American dream, this idea if you work hard enough and then you spend hours and hours grinding, you'll eventually make it, to me is
the grind.
absolute bullshit. Because if that were true, I would not be where I am right now. Like I
Wait,
would
we have been
probably,
doing this. I have been helping you for like
yeah,
what,
like you.
6 years?
For those who don't know, I previously there's another like Alpha. I have been friends for many years, and he used to be part of this other group that I created called Team 76, and he became this November. It's gonna be the 5-year anniversary that you became part of that group.
Yeah, holy shit.
So you've been by my side helping me with my bullshit for like 5 years. And it's like been a long time coming
Don't
to
worry,
actually
everyone. I take bribes.
uh I'm not gonna say anything. Anyways, for legal reasons, I cannot comment on this issue. That's a joke, but like it's been a long time, and I've been trying to finally find my footing in the world when it comes to doing something like this online and for public. And I feel like I finally, at least for now, found something that I'm truly passionate about. I feel like in the last year and a half, I've done a lot of improving. And like, and the thing funny is like Alpha has been always exposed to like very political, like as he said before, and you can vouch and probably explain it better than me, but like you've always like had very like your family has always been very open about political stuff. And
Yeah, we have a lot of revolutionary past in my family, so
yeah. And so, and like you've always been like, yeah, you just said like from like the age of 7, you're like a little commie.
yeah,
um and like as a kid, at that age, I was like very like, fuck politics, this shit is way too hard, I do not give a shit, I don't
I
care
don't
about
think you
this.
understood what politics were.
Yeah, I didn't really understand it, and for many years I was apolitical, right? Like I said before, I was very like this idea of like not
Which is
wanting
perfectly
to
normal.
like
A
not wanting.
seven-year-old child should not have a party.
Yeah, yeah. And so like being like I was very apolitical for many years. I never considered myself a centrist. I never did. But I definitely was like enough this idea of like I definitely was always left leaning because my parents are, and I've always believed in like fighting for people's rights and being, very in that sense very progressive. And so I've always been kind of left leaning anyways. But like ever since like a year and a half ago is when I really started like getting into politics and actually researching stuff. And I found such a passion in it, and I found such a deep connection in being able to fight for people's rights and do what I feel like is right. um that I when I've created Politdigm, it was such like every project that I've created is a passion project at the end of the day, but it was such like this feels right. It was like this was such that was more of like out of a necessity in a weird way of like I need to do this, like I must do this. And I when I brought on in Alpha, like I knew that he would be
I'm
in.
so happy.
I didn't even ask. I wasn't even like I didn't even ask you. I wasn't like, do you want to do this? I was more of like I am doing this, and I know you want to be part of it. Like I
Yeah, you
just
just
know.
said so. Hey, you remember that thing we talked about the other day? And I just, I caught on. Just said, hell yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, like I hadn't explained. I was like, motherfucker, I haven't even explained it yet. Like I don't give a shit. Like I'm in. Uh so
Yeah,
it was such like a great thing to do, and I've always been so terrified to talk about this stuff publicly. I've talked, like I remember maybe 2 years ago, whenever it was, like one time I was doing a Twitch stream, and I remember somebody coming on my stream and asking me, "What do you think about billionaires? What do you think about Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos?" I even remember what game I was playing in that game where I was standing in the map, and I remember so like vividly being so almost terrified to talk about this because I was so scared to say something wrong and to be hurtful, etc. Kind of the same things that we talked about early in this episode, right? This kind of idea of like trying to stay
yeah.
indifferent and like being scared to say the wrong thing. And I remember basically what I said was like, yeah, like I think that they like they have contributed to society with some technologies and stuff like that, but inherently they are very shitty people because they're filthy rich, and to be that rich, they most likely have screwed over people, which is,
Based.
I mean, yeah, like I agree with that. Today I have a much more extreme notion of like understanding,
Eat the rich.
like yeah, like I very much understand, like yeah, fuck the rich and all that. And so, but like doing Politime is like I can find like I was able to finally distance myself from like this content creator who's like, because like a lot of like internet content creators are very apolitical because they're like they want to try to be as captivating, and they want to be as like they want to try to captivate as like a broader, like the most broad audience as possible. So they want to make sure that they're like as accepting of everybody, so they have a very centrist kind of like position when it comes to being a content creator. And I never wanted to be like that. But I also felt pressured and scared to having to be like that, right? And so when I finally was able to do Politime, but I remember like a week before doing Politime or starting Politime that I had like this moment of like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to kind of start a, or do I want to launch Politdigm? Do I want, like, if Politdigm would to become successful, it is going to change my life in ways that I cannot control, right? Ways
Yeah.
that, in ways that I want and in ways that I don't want, because with everything, with success always comes a bad side of it, right? And when it comes to, for example, being, in the political realm, talking about politics, I am going to make a lot of fucking enemies. There's no way. Like, basically, like, every episode we do, we're just burning bridges. Like, every fucking episode. Every episode we talk about any corporation in specific, or that we talk about capitalism, we are burning so many fucking bridges, right? And so I'm like, all right, like, my life will never be the same. I am basically terminating any chance that I'm going to work with a bunch of these companies or these people that I might, like, not agree with their ways of being. But as a kid, I always looked up to them and I kind of wish that I could. But as a part of my integrity and as a, for what I believe fighting in, I cannot in my right mind work with these brands anymore. And they probably won't want to work with me anyways. And yet I was like, no, I need to do this. And so here we are 17 weeks later, still going at it strong, and I do not regret it.
Yeah.
I do not regret being able to do this with a great friend of mine, which I give Alpha a lot of shit, and I constantly joke about every little dumb shit that he does, which, to be fair, I also do a lot of dumb shit, and he also calls me out for it. But I'm glad that I get to do this with a great friend, and for the first time, when I'm doing an actual group project like this, I actually feel like I'm not like the people that I'm doing it with are like going against me, and I feel like we're actually on a little boat and we're like just swimming in the same direction, and it's fun.
Likewise. Likewise.
So with that in
That being
mind,
said,
yeah.
we got our Q&A.
Oh yeah, true, true. We actually, I was gonna do the fucking Patreon thing, and I was gonna like, goodbye, I'm out. I gotta go eat. I'm hungry. I need to eat something. But yeah, go ahead. What is the question our Patreon has?
Question for today is, what is our opinion on the current uh, teachers' right movement here in Portugal?
All right, we can.
And I think you might want to go first because I'm going to do a lengthy one.
I also have a lengthy opinion on it. I think that there's as a student, I always have a biased opinion, and I always, and as a lot of students, we might have a more, I would say, maybe a hurtful opinion, in the sense that we see a lot of teachers as like this pest trying to annoy us and give us a lot of work that we want to do. However, as a person who is doesn't see teachers like that and recognizes their humanity and doesn't see them as a monster, I recognize that there are people who, in a lot of times, they're trying their best, and even when they don't seem to be trying their best, they're still human beings. And no matter what, as a person who very much loves unions and believes fighting for the rights of workers indiscriminately, I believe that all workers deserve better conditions, and that this idea of like, do they deserve it? Do they work hard enough for it? I think is always a kind of pointless, I like, dialogue to have, because like at the end of the day, if we always have that mentality of like, oh, let's do like a little bit of like a statistic, like research of like, do these people actually deserve to earn anything? Like, that's very unfair, right? That's unfair because like for some, like, when you might have um two in five teachers might be the most hardworking people ever. Those two people have to suffer for the other three's lack of experience. And me and Alpha, you and I have talked about this before. And for example, in Portugal, we actually, something that you told me, we to have more teachers, instead of creating a better system to make sure that there are better teachers, we basically dumb down our requirements to have more teachers. And so we
Which ain't
are
not working.
what?
It's not working
Yeah,
because no
because
one
like,
wants, because the job is dog shit.
and
Like,
so
not the position of teaching, it's just the way that it's implemented in our school systems.
like, it's an issue that, like, I don't know, it's like, I think that there's a lot of different things that you might, maybe I'm going to say a lot of shit that you might say, but like, there's two facets to this. There's teachers that clearly just want more money. which I don't inherently have an issue with. Whatever, get more, get paid more. That's
They
fine.
are not paid well.
Like you, yeah, sure. Like you have, like you are away from your families in a lot of situations. You deserve money. Everybody, like I fucking hate money. I talk about this all the time. I believe that we should abolish concept of currency, but whatever. Like if you need money to survive, then everybody deserves as much of it as possible, right? In an ethical way, of course. Not, don't try to kill people and like do what billionaires do. But in the case of a teacher, of course, I believe that you deserve a better paid job. And of course, like there's a lot of like research that's been done that shows that if a worker is paid a wage that they feel truly like represents how much they work, that makes them a better worker because they don't feel like they're working for nothing, right?
Yeah.
That just is better for them, for their mental
Also,
health. So
you mind if I
that is great.
slide into your
Wait,
part
can I
because
just add the second half?
yeah, it's
Okay.
something you weren't saying, but I'll say it later.
The second half is teachers
Oh shit!
who kind of want to redo, or what's the term? It's not redo. There's
Vamp.
abolish, and then there's
I know
uh
what you're saying. Ah, fuck. Uh,
the
have
re
revolutionary reform.
reform, exactly. Like they want to reform the education system, rethink it, be like try to bring it into the 21st century in a decade where technology has advanced so much and the education system has stayed so much in the past. Teachers who truly want to bring the school system to the 21st century into the 2020s and aren't as much focused on wage, rather focused on actually making the system better, I think that in a certain way that is way better. I think that's a much better cause to be fighting for, and I think that that should be the kind of the number one focus. Rather that currently, I feel like there's a lot of teachers where their number one focus is purely getting paid more. Which again, nothing against it, but I think that it's much more important that the actual school system gets fixed rather than just paying more because the system isn't going to get fixed. Like it's a systematic issue that needs to be fixed, and then after that, if you get paid more, that's wonderful. So you
Okay.
can go now.
Okay. So, little backstory.
Bro, you were literally just like you were ready, like you were rubbing your hands together, like you're getting ready to
I
scheme.
have cooking. So, a few years back, I was watching a video by the Overly Sarcastic Productions channel, which is a great YouTube channel. If you like history, um, books, philosophy, mythology, trope talks, when it detailed diatribes is one of their series. You would I highly recommend that channel. And they were doing a special episode where they grabbed college and described college as if it were on the nine rings of hell by Dante Alighieri.
Okay.
And the group of people that were on the bottom of hell, the fucking pit, freezing their nutsacks on the ice, were those that hated teachers.
All right.
A little something about myself. Currently, my dream is to be able to teach at a very specific university, a chair in political sciences. I still don't know what it is, but I think it might it might be political philosophy. As such, I am biased towards teachers, but I also have a fucking decent head on my shoulders. I think, at least for most of the time.
Quite big
So,
one too. What?
thank you. There were some things that you said which I don't necessarily agree with. The first thing that is important to know about our teachers here in Portugal is that the education system fucking sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. It has way too much things that they have to teach, not enough time for the students to learn. If you look at a high school student, no matter which course they're in, the only thing that they share in common is the fact that they're fucking suicidal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because the amount of work that students have to do is astronomical. And the same applies to teachers. They have to prepare classes, they have to teach them, and they also have 5 days a week with teenagers and kids, which is
Okay.
fucking heroic. I could not do that. I would throw myself off a cliff in the first month if I made it to the end of the first month. So not only that, they also have extra hours to work, and they don't get enough pay.
Yeah.
Besides that, a lot of people don't get the stability to know that they are effective teachers at a school. What does that mean? That means that you know that for the next years you will teach at that schools. A lot of teachers only have the opportunity to teach at a school for 1 year and then see if they actually stay in that school, which is a lot of the time is not up to them. It's not up to them. It's up to the
Yeah, and they
school.
and they might have to like they might be on like the northern part of the country, and then the next
You
year they
have to
might have to
fucking
go
travel every day.
like to the complete opposite side of the country where they are like almost like I don't know 500 kilometers. I have no idea how large the country is. I'm gonna be honest,
Yeah,
but like they're
yeah, 6 kilometers,
super
something like
far
that.
away from their family, and they have to drive for hours on end to be able to see them, and it's like it's a horrible state of mind, like a horrible
Yeah.
way to live.
Besides, there was a period in time where, because of debt, national debt, I am not too sure about this, but I will do my best. There was a lot of time where teachers' pay wasn't accounted for. They received wages, but wages?
Wages, yes.
Yeah, sorry, brain fart. They received wages, but it wasn't the full percentage of it. And they still haven't gotten back those years of lost wages. Besides that, currently in our system, you can teach for years and years and years, and you are not allowed to move up in your career and get better hours and get better pay as time goes on because there aren't enough slots, basically. So you can teach for 20 years and still be paid the same as someone that has been working for 2 years and is 18 years younger than you
Fucking liberals.
and working the same amount of time. You can still move up, but there aren't enough slots. A lot of teachers don't get to upgrade their curriculum, basically, which is inhumane. This is not the military. It doesn't work like that, which is an argument that I see a lot of the time, which is fucking stupid.
Yeah, like as two people
These
who hate the
people
military, like
bust
that's
their ass.
it's a very bad
They
example.
bust their ass to teach an entire generation. And they do not have the right conditions. A lot of the times, they do not have the right schools. They have to put up with us, students,
Little
which is
shits.
horrible. I can't put up with students.
Bro, I can either. Fucking hate my classmates. They're so annoying. I
Well,
can't. Holy shit, I'm too
Misha,
old for this.
I would shoot myself if I had to teach my like a class every single day in our school.
Yeah, same.
And besides that, once again, you don't have enough the correct materials when it comes to the program that you have to teach. A lot of the times, you don't have a good school. The school is old, it's run down.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's fucking in the summer it's hot as fuck. In the winter it's incomprehensibly cold.
yeah,
And
you either
and you're not
materials,
given the tools necessary to do your job, which is
yeah,
not good.
which is demonic. So, as a student, as someone who respects teachers generally, has a gripe against a few individuals, but respects teachers with all my heart because it's not easy. I am 100% with the fight that teachers are currently fighting for better rights.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, in our school, I don't know if you have, we have received a notice. I basically told us to, if we want, go in protest with our teachers, and I probably will. So
We did have one about the student union, which I was like, hmm.
we have a student union.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, I don't know if it's literally a student. It's like that weird little council thing with the
Ah,
students
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
That weird little democratic shit that nobody ever talks about. So we have no idea how the fuck that
Because
works.
once again, the institution is old.
Yeah, it's like trying to have like a democratic system, but nobody is educated on how it works, so it isn't a democracy. It's a good example of it. I kind of,
Yeah,
at least from my opinion, like I have no clue how the hell that works. So I'm like, cool. That seems fun, but
I have two friends that are running for places on those two. So yeah, I kind
I
of know
can't be
how
asked
it
to have
is.
that much more work in my hands. I would love to do it, but I please
Class
no.
press, that's how it goes for me.
Oh, not even that sometimes.
I was class press for 2 years and I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah, I was class president last year, and it was all right. But it wasn't
Yeah,
this year didn't elect me, and now they're constantly complaining about the current class president. I warned them that they messed up. It's
yeah.
what happens.
So yeah, I support teachers, and
Yeah,
I support their fight for better rights because
yeah.
even if you want to be selfish about it, if teachers get better conditions, that
You
also
get better
reflects
conditions.
exactly. Students also get better conditions
Yeah, it's like
because you have teachers that actually like teaching.
yeah, and you'll have like a better system for you, which
Yeah,
you don't have to bitch about and moan about it every
yeah.
2 seconds, which is something that I
Like
also hate
our
is
system is designed to churn out
machines.
individuals that are destined to blue collar jobs and th- well, the high percent of the
Yeah,
like the dream jobs and not in proportion. It's basically yeah, if you can't make the margin, we're not gonna help you. We're gonna make it harder. And if you can, congrats, you're a doctor now or a lawyer. If you wanna be a blood sucking parasite,
exactly. If you want to go to hell, straight to the depths of it, right to the
you
ninth.
know where.
No, I'm joking. I don't have. I mean, depends. If you're a fucking lawyer who defends corporations
You know why?
against victims, you are a piece of shit.
You know why lawyers are when they're 6 feet under?
Why?
Because deep down they're good people.
Bruh, that's fine. I like that.
I love that joke.
Also, out of pure curiosity, what like you said you didn't agree with some of the things is what I said. What were those exactly?
The idea that they were doing it for the money. A lot of them were doing
No,
it for
I didn't say
not
like
it's not the idea that they want to get paid, or it's just that it's not that they
I,
worked for years and
yeah, yeah.
still haven't seen
I'm
results.
not I'm not saying
It's
that they want to
fucking
do.
up.
I think you miss it. Maybe I missaid it, but like when I said that they're doing it for the money, that's not what I meant. I meant like
The money
is
spent.
like I don't think they're doing it for the money. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think that the reason why they're being so criticized is because the way the current union is uh
There are a lot of unions
like
covering
the
this,
the
so
way the way they're like their public relations, the way that they're like doing it is they're not like the relations department, if they have one, probably don't,
well,
of the teachers unions are not doing a good job, in the sense that it seems like they only want to do it for the money,
currently the biggest union that is
which I
covering
don't
fights
think
for
is what
teachers.
they're doing. I don't think they
Yeah.
only want to do it for the money. I think that they're doing a bad job at showing that they don't want to do it only for the money. Therefore, the public doesn't have a good opinion on it. That's what I wanted to say. I don't agree with that,
Currently,
but
the biggest union that is helping the teachers union stop, is rife with infighting.
yeah,
There is a lot of infighting occurring within it, so
yeah,
it's
that brings
it's a bit
complications.
fun. But yeah,
Yeah, and
well, I gotta go.
I gotta go eat because I am hungry. I need
I
food. I
gotta
need
go study
sustenance.
math.
Also, fun fact for those who don't know, but like I like how a lot of like the union strikes and shit that happen in Portugal are usually organized by the Communist Party. But if I just find that funny.
Well,
Uh,
our Communist Party is really good when it comes to organizing shit, but it does have one huge problem. It's sided with Russia.
yeah,
Thank you
and they're weirdly
everyone for listening
conservative.
to our podcast.
Exactly. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Make sure to support us on Patreon. And if you also want to have a whole section dedicated to your question, make sure to support us on our Patreon and join our Discord and submit your questions on our
Once again,
specific
remember, you
Q&As,
don't have to be a member to join the Discord. We have a God damn it.
the
We
public
have a
part.
section of the Discord that is made as free access.
Yeah, so make sure to talk to us. We hope you had a great time listening to our rambles, and we'll see you next week.
As always, be good people.
Goodbye, everybody.